The first steps for inquiry is starting from the beginning and modeling. In the beginning, you kind of have to buy into it and just step off into that pool and know that your kids can do it, but you're going to have to show them how. The beginning is very ish. They say answers that just sometimes make no sense, but you just have questions kind of in your closet that you're thinking of that you can ask them if they get stuck. You know, for example, if they're looking at a document and they say, oh, he had glasses, I see he had clothes, we can turn their thinking by saying things like, why do you think I would show you this picture? Or what do you think I want you to learn from this picture? So when they get stuck, it kind of guides them. And consistency is the biggest thing. Every time I introduce a document, we analyze it in the same way. So the kids know what's being expected of them. And they know that every single time they're going to look first, they're going to take a minute, and then they're going to say what they notice. And then we're going to share and listen to each other's opinions. And then we're going to do the same thing again with what that makes them think. And then we're going to ask questions about what we think we're going to learn. So by being very intentional with the steps that I take and intentionally having that same process repeat over and over, the kids kind of know what's expected of them. Also, a big step is thinking ahead. What are my problems going to be? In the lesson, I pre-selected marker colors. When they were writing on their poster, each child had their own color markers so I could tell which child did which thinking. So you kind of got to think through, like a 6-year-old, what are our obstacles going to be? Our obstacles are going to be they're going to fight over which color marker they're going to have. So I thought ahead to say, okay, this is going to be a problem. I'm going to predetermine which color everyone gets. So the more you get into this work, you realize the obstacles you're going to face, and you kind of step through and think through, okay, what can I do so this doesn't happen again? And the best way I've learned is by fails, by things that I thought were going to work beautifully and they bombed. And I thought, what can I do differently to make them understand this better? And my next lesson was better, and the lesson after that was even better, and it's continued to grow. But what I can tell you about inquiry work is it's gone from just being that thing in my day that I have to teach to my kids' favorite time of the day. And they remember things that we learned in September all the way to our lesson in May. It makes a big difference. I planned this lesson by, first of all, making sure my kids understood how to rank the people that we were studying. The lesson was for them to go in and talk about the historical figure that they thought was most important for helping our country, and then to defend their thinking. So before we did that, I wanted to make sure they understood how to rank and defend their thinking. We've done things before where we put things in a chronological order and defended it, but not necessarily a favorite. So I gave them all 4 fast food restaurants and broke them into groups, and they had to rate and rank their favorite 4 fast food restaurants and then defend their thinking. But what happened was the kids ended up in tears because when they sat down with their groups, they didn't match. And some of them were very upset that their first choice wasn't their group's first choice. So I needed to come up with a way that they could already have their first choice and be grouped that way. So we did a quick rate and rank sheet, and they ranked only their top 3. We didn't do the top 6. I felt like that might be overwhelming for them. So they picked their first 3 choices, and then I broke them into groups based on the person they thought was most important. And then they just met briefly with their groups to talk quickly about what they knew about that person, to kind of prime the pump, so to speak, so they remembered what they were supposed to be talking about. That's something we've done all year long. So none of it was new thinking for them. They're used to proving their answers. They're used to defending their thinking. And they're used to doing it in a rich way like a historian would do, not just the simple things like it's a boy, it's a girl, she was cool, he was neat. You know, we want them to really give those answers that truly define and defend their thinking. Before doing this lesson, we've spent a lot of time through the year studying each historical figure and giving lots of evidence. We've used primary sources. We've analyzed those sources. They've written in their journals. They've worked in groups. They've done all of these things before. So none of what we did in this lesson were different than the things we've done before. We kind of just got everything and put it together. So we tied in what they've learned about all of the figures together, and we had them defend their thinking. The next step for this is actually to change up the question. Instead of how do they help our country, we're going to hit those character traits. Our standard is to talk about how the people are alike and they're different. So we're going to look at those character traits and say, who do you think was brave? Why do you think they're brave? Who do you think showed the most perseverance? Why do you think they showed perseverance? So the question and the activity can actually go on to do multiple lessons other than just this one lesson. We also have cards in place where they can physically manipulate the people's faces to kind of help them get an order of what they're thinking. And then they're used to journal work. That's something we've done since the very first day of school. So their journal reflection is always something that they do. It's a component that we do. And also the posters in this lesson, we use posters where the children wrote in their own colored ink. That's a quick assessment for me to go by informally and just look around and see who grasped the concept and who didn't. And the same thing with the journals. When they have their journals, they're showing some learning and evidence of what they can do individually and not just as a group. Hey guys, we have been talking about all of these very, very, very important people who helped our country. Can you give me a thumbs up if you remember one of the people who helped our country? Connor Larko, give me one person that helped our country.
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. Miles, give me one person.
Roosevelt.
Theodore Roosevelt. Yes. Bowen.
Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin. Connor.
George Washington Carver.
George Washington Carver. Mikhail.
Lewis and Clark.
Lewis and Clark. Wyatt.
Sacagawea.
Sacagawea. Cyrus.
Ruby Bridges.
Ruby Bridges. You got them all. You got all 6. That's so awesome. So our question yesterday was, who do you think helped our country the most? But in this classroom, do we just say it? What do we have to do? You have to prove it. So yesterday, you guys voted, and you kind of picked the person that you thought changed our country the most. Give me a thumbs up if you remember doing that. Yeah, we picked our people. Well, today we're going to kind of practice what that would look like with Ruby Bridges. And we talked about how when we're proving it, can I say things like, I like her?
No.
Can I say she's cool?
No.
No. Can I say she's a girl?
No.
No, because that does not tell how she helped our country. So what I want you to do is take just a second for your brain to think about how Ruby Bridges helped our country. So get that locked in your brain, and when you think you have an idea that you can share, I want your eyes to look this way so I know that you're ready. All right, when you've got it, look this way so I know you're ready. Okay, thumbs up if you have something you'd like to share. All right, Miles, what's one way that Ruby Bridges helped our country?
Even she tried to make the people even go share the places because the black and white people did not think they were supposed to be together.
Oh, yes. So she showed people that black and white children could go to school together. Okay, who has a different idea? Wow, that's a lot of words, Miles. All right, who has another one? Connor Larko?
When Ruby Bridges grew up, she told that black and white people could.
Oh, when Ruby Bridges was a kid, that's when all this happened, right? But did she stop talking to people?
No.
She still kept fighting because she wanted people to be treated fairly. So we'll say even as a, is grown up okay, Connor? Even as a grown up, she fought for people to be treated equally.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more. Who thinks they can give me one more really great thing about Ruby Bridges? Wyatt, give me something about Ruby Bridges, the way she helped.
She prayed.
She prayed. She did pray. They said she prayed every single morning on the way to school.
Yeah, but one morning she forgot.
Oh, yeah, one morning she did forget. All right, I have really big work for you to do. Thumbs up if you can do some really big work. Okay, so yesterday you guys all picked the person that you thought helped our country the most. And you are going to do just like we talked about. You're going to answer this question about who helped our country the most. And then you're going to do this thing that you always do, which is to what?
Prove it.
Prove it. You have got to prove it by showing the things that we've all been learning about, okay? So everybody has a poster that looks like this and a bag of markers. So guess what I've already done for you? I've put your names on the bottom of the posters, and I've written your name in a color. So Connor's name is orange. What color is Connor going to write with on our poster? Orange. And Cyrus is going to write with what color? Green. And Charlotte is going to write with pink or purple. And Michelle is going to write with red. Remember how we talked about being super focused in our groups and making sure we're talking like historians?
I'm going to go with Alana.
Yes, you agreed to swap, and that was very kind. All right, Connor, Adam, Cyrus, Charlotte, and Michelle. Let's come right here to this table. Okay, who are you guys working on?
George Washington Carver.
George Washington Carver. Okay, so our job today is to tell what he did to help our country. What are you thinking? What's your idea? Okay, hold on, one at a time.
He didn't like that they had slaves.
Yeah, he didn't like they had slaves. Alana?
He was brave.
Oh, he was brave. You're right. How was he brave?
He went like tuition back to go to school together.
Yeah, that's right. He did care, did he? And he walked a long way. What, Connor?
He made people survive
How did he help people survive?
by making food.
He helped them make food. Do you remember how he did that? Mm-hmm. What did he do?
He like made all the foods with different kinds, with peanuts and sweet potatoes.
Yeah, with the peanuts and sweet potatoes because they didn't know what to do with them, right? All right, so you'll have some really great thinking. I want you to keep talking, okay? And keep sharing your ideas. All right, good job.
We can have the mark.
Not yet. All right, guys, who do you have?
Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, Benjamin Franklin. All right, tell me some ideas.
He made inventions.
Hold on, one at a time. He made things. Give me an example. What's something that he made?
The Franklin stove.
Yeah, Franklin stove.
He made inventions.
Yeah, what kind of inventions?
Bifocals.
Bifocals. Right, do you have one?
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to share?
He helped write the Declaration of Independence.
He did help write the Declaration of Independence. That's some great work. Can you think of some other things? I think there were some other documents that he wrote. Do you remember? He was the only one to sign how many documents?
Five.
Not 5. 4 documents. He was the only one to sign 4. Is that something that you could add to your chart today?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so while I'm gone, I'm going to go check on the other tables. I want y'all to keep thinking of ideas, okay? All right, go ahead. All right, guys, what do you have?
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. What's one thing you can tell me about how Thomas Jefferson helped our country? Go.
He gave us more land.
He did get us more land. How did he get us more land? Was it like in his pocket and he just passed it out?
Because he got.
Okay, hold on. It's Connor's turn. He made the Louisiana Purchase, right? And that got us a whole lot of extra land. All right, do you have something, Michelle, that you want to share?
She was going to do the same thing as me, and Charlotte was.
Okay, well, let's see if we can think of some other things other than just the Louisiana Purchase. Yes.
The Declaration of Independence.
Declaration of Independence. What else did he sign? He signed 2 big documents. Do you remember the other one? We the
people. The Constitution.
Constitution. Very good. Charlotte, what's wrong, baby?
I don't have an answer.
Okay, well, how about I give you an answer? You want me to give you one? Okay, are you ready? Let me think. How about Thomas Jefferson wanted everybody to be treated
Fairly.
fairly? See, you got it. All right, can you share that? Okay, get ready. All right, do you have on your happy face?
I'm ready.
All right, why don't I come back to you later and you can write that part, okay?
Can we do it now?
All right, so you're going to write that Thomas Jefferson wanted people to be.
We don't have
See, you got it. You're good. All right, you have done some great work thinking. I've heard some very, very, very smart ideas. Now your job is to write with your markers. So look at your name. You're going to write with the color marker that your name is. So check your markers and go ahead and get started. Write what you know about how they are important to our country. All right, how you coming over here?
This is how I make mine.
Oh, he made things? Okay, let's see what you have. He was the first one. What are you going to say? What's the rest of it?
He was the first one. He was the first one of The independence and liberty.
Awesome. He was one of our first fathers of our country. Is that what it is? Oh, Charlotte, you've got it. Yeah, see, he wanted the people to be treated. All right, if you can think of another thing, you can write another thing on your chart. It's okay if it's upside down.
I kind of forgot all mine.
All right, did you have about... What did you write? You said he did the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Did you do the Louisiana Purchase? Does anybody have that on there?
Franklin. And you said he made.
Okay, who did he hire?
He made things.
He hired Lewis and Clark. Can you add that? We use a journal every day in social studies as part of Swirl, which is what we're all moving to with the state level. And the Swirl is speaking, writing, illustrating, reading, and listening. And in the Foursquare, they can do all of those things. When we've met on the carpet, we've spoken, we've given our opinions, we've listened to others' opinions. Then when they go back to their journal, they're writing and they're illustrating. And the reason for the Foursquare is it gives the kids a boundary. They know when there's 4 squares that they have to write 4 things. So it just kind of gives them some parameters. It stops all of the, what are we supposed to do? Questions. You know, they know that's their expectation anytime there's a Foursquare. We usually write first and then do the illustration second. At the beginning of the year, we illustrated first and wrote second. And the great thing about the illustrating and the writing is it's already differentiated. The kids who are really, really strong writers or who are really great artists, they can add as much as they want. But kids who have a little bit of a harder time, they might just illustrate and label versus illustrate and write sentences. So it's already differentiated to each child. Does everybody have a pencil? All right, go ahead and make your Foursquare. Okay, I want you to put your date on the top, and then I need you to make a Foursquare. And how many things are you going to write about your person? 4. You're going to put something you know in each square. When you're finished, can you draw a picture to match it? Yes, words first, then pictures. Do how your person helped our country. Let me see what you have. Which person are you doing?
Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin. And you said he made the...
He made things to
Yeah, very good. And give some examples of things that he made to help. Okay, what do you have, Rosiah?
That Lewis and Clark, that they went around the world.
They did go around the world. You know, that's one of the things we forgot to talk about is how much Thomas Jefferson liked to garden. We didn't even put that in there. You're right. He brought lots of vegetables to us. All right, what do you have?
He helped our country by help write the Declaration of Independence.
Wow, he did do that. You're exactly right. Are you doing Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin?
Benjamin Franklin.
Awesome, because they both helped, right? That's a tricky one.
And John Adams.
And John Adams, true story. You guys did a great job proving it. And when I was walking around, I saw words and I saw pictures. And some of you, when I was reading what you wrote, I could tell who you were writing about just by your clues because you guys did some awesome work today. I'm going to give you, you did very well. Are you ready? You did very well. Great job proving it. Can you give a thumbs up? Good job. Our last step of the unit would be to take an informed action. That's a little bit trickier for 6-year-olds to kind of wrap your brains around what they can actually understand and use, so you're not just doing something for the sake of doing it, but you're doing something with merit. So with this unit, what we would talk about is someone within our school who's really made an important impact on our school, or someone in their family or the community, and then what they would do, they could write a letter to that person and tell that person thank you for all the contributions they've made to help their school, their family, their community, whatever it is that we decide to narrow it down to. It kind of gives them a way to go. I went to a social studies workshop in Athens, and one of the sessions I was in was with Joanne Wood, and she was doing a session about children's books. And I had always struggled with children's books. This is too hard for my kids, or they don't understand. And she left me with a handful of really rich books that I could take back to my students. That was the first step. They got excited about social studies, and I remembered how much I love social studies. That was my first step. My next step was the shift to the inquiry work, and I was a little scared, and I didn't know how it was going to look. And the first lesson, I had some great answers, and I had some answers that didn't make any sense. but my kids were excited, and my kids had a voice, and they wanted to do it again the next day. And the next day when we sat down on the carpet, they wanted to know what they were going to look at today. And I knew I had won. I knew I had gotten their attention, and that I had created a passion and a love for learning that I wanted them to carry on. Success in the classroom looks like happy children. When I have a carpet sitting down and they're all smiling at me and they're waiting on bated breath for what we're going to talk about next, I've won. When they are even arguing passionately about which figure they think is the most important or which action that was most important, I've done something right. I've taught them how to debate. I've taught them how to discuss. I've taught them how to be passionate. I've taught them that they can do hard work and that I believe in them and that I know they can. And so many times at this age, we think they're only 6 and we think they can't do this work, that they're too little. They can do it, and they can be proud of it, and they can go home and tell their parents. I have parents all the time, sending me messages saying, I know more about social studies than I knew when I was in school because of the things that my child is coming home telling me. And parents will send me pictures of their kids at home on iPads watching videos on YouTube about Thomas Jefferson or about Benjamin Franklin, or rewatching things that we've done or seen in class. And I feel like I have won. I have made them passionate. I have made them excited. I've made them want to learn more than what we've done in the classroom.